Good evening, everyone. We're going to approach this as if we are in a living room and we are having a fireside chat. There are those of us that are in the room, and then there are those of us that we're welcoming in that are in the virtual space. So everyone welcome, depending on where you are. It's either good afternoon or it's good evening. Thank you for having us. We are happy to be here, and we're going to jump right in. I would have given you a whole litany about how fabulous these women are, but you can go on LinkedIn and see their bios. I'm going to introduce them, tell you a little bit about insofar as their title, and then we're jumping right into the Q&A so that we save space and time for you all to engage as well. So, to my immediate left, we have Pat Cruz, who is the Executive Director of Harlem Stage. She's going to share why I nicknamed her Miss Moneybags, because she's the bag lady. And I don't mean bags as in the bag that you carry, but the bag that you want to spend and or give. So now we're starting with Pat. And then I'd like to welcome, we have Gwen Wardrop. Did I say that right? You did. Thank you very much. I like to get names right. That doesn't mean that I always will, but please charge it to my head and not my heart. Executive Director, Cultural Events and Experiences at the New York Times. And then we have Saida. Yes. Saida Blount. Yes. Executive Director, Celebrate Brooklyn at Brick. And then last but not least, we have Ariel. Yes. Ariel. Not Ariel. Ariel. Ariel Palettes. Yes. Managing Director, Hospitality and Intergovernmental Relations, Oak Tree Solutions. Thank you, ladies, for being here. We're going to jump right in. There's a, yes, absolutely. So I appreciate how we opened up this evening. There's a mixed bag insofar as who's in the audience. So I'm going to guess that we could potentially have someone in here who's 18 and figuring it out, and you don't know what you don't know, all the way up to those of us that may be a little older. I will not say how old, just a little older. So we're going to run the full gamut. So when you're thinking of your experiences, be mindful that there's a little bit probably of what you'll share. There's a little bit of something for everybody in here. So can you tell us about your career journey? How did you get here?
I've followed my passion. And I think as my parents made the mistake of saying, do what makes you happy. And I did, and they were like, we didn't mean that happy. But I think that my journey has been because I've always loved the arts. And I'm one of those people, just so that you know, and this is a long time ago, when the New York Times used to have an art section and an entertainment section, and the two were separated. And I was one of those people who were going, why would you do that? Because I was so greedy to know more about the art and how the art is made and what we can do to enable it. Mm-hmm. So my journey has been so easy because I had a bit of a stage mother who thought I was going to do something else, and I didn't. Even though I played Benita as a very young person in a long ago version of A Raisin in the Sun. But since then, I've worked a lot in experimental theater, experimental work that I did with my husband, the late artist Emilio Cruz. And that was an astounding journey because I was learning about what had happened before I was on the scene. I was able to be introduced to avant-garde musicians through him and through my education. But what I realized as I was loving the art, I was also loving the ability to enable art to be made. Because I think one of the things that we forget about, especially when we're running institutions and looking at whether we're going to get media attention and all of the things that's about, I think we don't always center the artist in the way that is critical. And by that, I mean everything from how we pay them, because artists need money. And so when you talked about my being money bags, the purse has been empty and it's been full.
Yes.
And I want everybody to know that because there are very, very difficult times, and you've got to make very difficult decisions. But I think that once, I was struggling up my stairs with too much junk that I was lugging, and somebody went to help me, and I said, no, the struggle will make me strong. And I think that that's what we always have to realize. There is no obstacle that you can't overcome.
That's right.
But also what is, especially as I've gotten older, I think that what I am better at is recognizing the opportunities, recognizing the open doors, because I think that's a real problem, because people can be standing there holding the door for you and you're like going down the other way. So I think that the determination for me has been something that I've been able to do. Started at studio. When I came to New York, I was at the Chicago Council of Fine Arts. I was doing grants making. I came to New York as a development director at Studio Museum in Harlem. I became the deputy director there, and then was recruited to go to Aaron Davis Hall. That was 25 years ago. And I have been incredibly happy to do the things that I've been doing there. And it includes supporting artists, respecting artists, understanding, because I was doing it, understanding what their needs are. And then I think finally, so I can let my colleagues speak, is that what I was able to realize is that the bonds that you make with those artists are critical. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary now.
Congratulations.
Thank you for that. And what we've done is, thank you all for that, but what we've done is we went back to some of the artists that we opened our new facility, what was then our new facility in 2006, with Bill T. Jones, Tanya Leon, any number of artists that we commissioned and that we then continue to work with. We gave some of the first performing possibilities to Camille A. Brown. She's gotten so famous that when I called her about the 40th anniversary, I was doing it with trepidation. I was like, will she take my call?
Oh, Pat, you know they're going to take your call.
Well, I did.
They're going to take your call.
I did not assume.
Give her flowers right now, because this is why she has what to share and an experience that some of us may never have. So we're going to live vicariously through you tonight, Pat.
You will all have the opportunities that you make.
We're going to speak it into existence.
That's right.
That's right.
And it's not being kind of Pollyannish about it, but it is saying, I don't believe, and I've never believed in my career, that there was a separation between my life and my work. And I do think that that's key, because so many of, especially my younger staff, I'll speak to those of you who can relate to that, and they're like, well, I'm going to take a wellness day, and I'm going to have to give my attention to myself. And I'm like,
well, we do, Pat.
I know, but my thing is, yourself is realized and made whole and healed in the process of the work.
That's right. Don't give out all the gems just yet, Pat.
Okay, fine.
Hold on. Never mind. I'll shut down to Gwen. But you've got gems, and we're going to come right back to these gems.
Okay.
Gwen, please share just a bit. How did you get where you are?
How did I get where I am?
Yeah.
How did I start doing events? I grew up and went to college at a time when you couldn't study doing events and hospitality and all that.
This wasn't amazing.
So like a lot of us, I think, I sort of fell into it. I was working in the music industry. This was kind of early in my career. And I was in the Latin music department of a performing rights organization. And we decided we were going to do, my boss and I decided we were going to do Latin Music Awards. And that was kind of my first time I was doing an event. And it, like a lot of people with events, I got the bug. I really liked it. I was good at it. It was challenging. It was exciting. It was very rewarding. And pretty shortly thereafter, I thought, this is kind of what I think I want to do. And from there, I just sought out different jobs in the event world and was lucky enough to get them and continued growing my experience in nonprofits. And then I worked on the Olympic bid back a million years ago when the city was trying to bring the Olympics here for 2012. Fun fact for you young people. We didn't win, obviously. Doing big, giant sporting events around the city. That led to where I'm at now, which is the New York Times, and I've been there for 18 years, doing events of all nature, and kind of really happy and feeling very blessed that I am where I am, and I got where I got.
And it sounds like you enjoy what you do, so it may not even feel like work, which I think.
Oh, it feels like work.
That was
Don't get
you're
me wrong.
working hard.
Yes. Don't ever kid yourself. Doing events is not fun. That's going to events. It's work. It's hard work, but it's very rewarding. I think so yes, I enjoy my work. That's why I keep doing it.
And when we come back full circle, I do think titles can be deceiving, and what we think one does during the day,
Absolutely,
relative to what you actually do. So would love for you to share a bit more when we come back on lecture. Okay, girlfriend, talk to us about how you got here.
So I think my journey was a little bit the beginning of my journey, I'll say, was the exact opposite of this path. My parents were like, stay in the books. This is about, you're going the education route. I come from an education family, hardcore academia, and that's what my first 21 years of my life were about. But it was like my parents were like, I worked at a very high level, and the one thing that was constant that, my parents didn't play about a lot of the other things, but music and culture were the things that then kind of let me have a little break with that. Like, I'd go record shopping with my dad, and my dad would be like, all right, grab whatever record shopping for your flipping through racks and doing that. But my dad would be like, grab what you want, or grab a CD or a brick of tapes when you're recording stuff off the radio. Lots of concepts that maybe the people, but that was always the constant, that I was always super curious about music and culture. I just absorbed as much as I could. Again, another thing, I worked at Barnes and Noble during the summers, and I never took home a paycheck. The checks went to music magazine, literally, and buy British music magazines or whatever. Never took home a check. It was those sort of things. I moved to New York City for grad school, and I did 1 year and burned out. I was like, I'm done. I called my parents and I was like, you know what? I've been going to shows. And, after I did my studies, I went out, and I really think that the love of music has been reanimated in me. So music, since I've been about 23, has been the touch point, I think, across my entire career. So I started out in music journalism, being really lucky to have access to artists, concerts, albums, reviewing everything. Moved in a little bit to music marketing, was really very early on with some of the trends. Like I was working on, and if you could believe it now, the way you look at TV, artists didn't believe in aligning themselves with brands. I worked with a lot of brands very early, like Adidas and Smirnoff and people like that, to find bands that would want to work with them. I got a lot of no's, and from people that you would be shocked. Like I worked on the campaign, Madonna's first branded campaign. Wow. Where going into a meeting with her team and being like, this is not good for her brand. There's no way she could ever do this. So it's crazy that, being at the forefront of a lot of those things. And then I kind of fell into events. A friend called me and was like, hey, did you see this posting up? NPR Music is looking for somebody to run their live events. And I was like, I haven't done journalism or anything like that. I'm like, there's no way they'd be interested in me. He was like, apply. I applied, and they were like, we're looking for something new. They're like, we want to shake this up. We've been doing classical and folk and all of these things. We want to get out there and, we want to talk to a new audience. And I was there for 5 years working on live events. And that is a world that it takes a very strong spirit to do events at a high level and across genres, across different venue sizes, different things like that. And then, I went a little bit deeper into music content after that. My next job, I was at Sonos and worked at Sonos, and I set up Sonos Radio for them and creating the concept of streaming and content. So And now I'm here. I'm so happy I started with Brick in January. So I'm
Congratulations. That's right.
I mean, what's it called? This team is amazing. It's been amazing to see people blending the love of performing arts, culture, music, with the community and in service. And, this has really brought me back to the things that I think that are very important for me, that I come from a family that believes that education is service. And so being here and being able to contribute in this small way in my years of experience is a blessing.
Thank you for sharing. It reminds me of how we started. I don't know that I've ever been to an event where we started in a form of prayer or acknowledgement about the land. And so I just want to shout that out, that I thought that was very moving and a great way to set the tone. And so speaking of which, setting the tone,
Yes.
I want to hear about how you got here, and we know what your nickname is.
We do.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
This is the nightlife mayor.
Well,
So we're going to find out why they call her the nightlife mayor.
you can call me whatever you want. So, yeah, I think I sort of have probably a little bit of an unconventional trajectory of my life, but also much like Pat, like I never ever did anything I didn't love. And I think that it really has guided me, even though it feels kind of all over the place. It's really been really centered with my soul and my heart, and has the foundation of everything I've ever really done has been based in New York City nightlife. I grew up going out in New York. I grew up in Manhattan. I like to say I went from spin the bottle to bottle service.
If they even know what that means.
Maybe not, but you get the picture. Just even going to roller skating rinks when you're young, the lights, the DJs, the smoke.
That's right.
And then at a very young age, going out to nightclubs and just feeling so alive, so inspired, the diversity, the music, the party, like it just gives you life. Nightlife gives you life. And so, I did go to college. I was a cultural anthropology major, which I think blends right into it all. And I used to do open mic jam sessions at school. So it was all part of like creating unity within the diversity at our university kind of vibes.
All right, poetry.
Exactly. It was called the Solution, and it was meant to be a common ground for diverse expression. Yes. And so when I came back to the city from school, I was in Connecticut, I started doing live music, open mic jam sessions at places like SOBs, Rebar, Anarchy Cafe, The Tunnel. And then during the day, I had jobs in PR and record labels and making flyers during the day and, doing all that kind of mixed hustle.
Social media.
Literally cutting images, pasting, going to Xerox, writing the names, writing addresses, passing out flyers, curating crowds. And, it was a common ground. It was like a live music band that I would rotate different musicians in and out of. I worked at a club called Mars, letting people know they were on the guest list. And eventually I was like, let me try and make this real. And I got incorporated and made it Solution Enterprises, LLC.
That's right.
I started doing events and still doing promoting. And eventually, after 5 years of promoting in the city, I wound up having an opportunity to be an investor in a club.
Oh.
And I was like, I should just have my own club. I shouldn't be doing it in other people's places. And then I was just an investor in some little bar in the East Village. And then that bar, it was me and 7 men. And they were all making all the wrong decisions and not listening to me. And so they failed. And a year later, I wound up taking over that space, taking on their debt, renaming it, revamping it, and running it for 10 years.
Yes.
in the East Village called Sutra Lounge on First and First. And it became like really a well-known nightclub, old school hip hop. I see Cool Herc and everything all over here. He used to be at Sutra every week. DJ Premier every week, Kid Capri, Tony Touch.
I love it.
Mostly because it was meant to be a common ground for diverse expression. Here's the line going through, meant to really showcase the diversity of New York. Had all kinds of nights from hip hop to reggae to rock and roll, Bollywood,
Yes.
everything.
What would you do, for example, since we're here, and I want to stay here because I think to some degree we can all appreciate nightlife.
Yeah.
To the extent that you had an artist lined up, ready to perform, you're waiting for them,
Yeah.
and they don't show up. No
There's
pun
always
intended,
another artist in the room.
Continue, the show must go on.
Oh, yeah.
Have you had situations where you had to pivot in the moment, figure out an alternative plan? Did you always have a backup? Like, talk to us.
I mean, when you go with the flow, you don't need a backup. You're figuring it out as you go. There was a 250 person club, 2 floors, 2 bars, 2 DJ booths. I lived upstairs. I had all the surveillance on my TV, walkie-talkies.
Oh my God.
300-400 people a night for a decade. And so, and old school hip hop, reggae, Latin, on the corner First and First in the East Village. So anything you could possibly imagine
Has happened.
And I survived, everybody else survived, and it led to unbelievable things. And I think that's really what I want to get at. It's like you're thinking you're doing one thing, and actually it's preparing you for something else you couldn't have even anticipated. One thing I didn't mention was that when I opened this bar, I was the #1 noisiest bar in New York. I had the most complaints on 311 from one person.
Oh my God.
And they weren't even substantiated calls. They were weaponizing the system, probably because I had hip hop nights. I don't know. But it actually really triggered all this city and state enforcement and march operations. And so that's really what activated and politicized me to not only defend myself, but to defend the industry that I love. Mm-hmm. And so being #1 actually gave me that voice and power to do that.
That's right.
And so I joined my local community board. I was on the liquor licensing committee. I was a founding member of the New York City Hospitality Alliance while I'm running a bar at the same time. And then after 10 years, I decided it was time to sell, right? And no one died. The police didn't shut us down. I didn't go broke. Like, let me get out while I can.
That's right.
Renegotiated a good lease. I had 2 4M liquor licenses, sold it.
Excellent.
Started a consulting company for a couple of years, and then Mayor de Blasio was, listening to council members, Rafael Espinal from Bushwick, who had realized there was this global movement happening of nightlife mayors in Berlin and Amsterdam. And why doesn't New York have a dedicated nightlife czar or somebody in government to help reframe a framed industry, that contributes so much? And, they announced this new job under this new office, this new entity. And I applied like everyone else, like 1,000 people applied. And I wound up getting the job and being the founding director of the Mayor's Office of Nightlife at MoMA, at the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. So full circle moment.
Absolutely.
I did that for 5 years under 2 mayors, both de Blasio and Adams, through the pandemic, built the office, it was sort of just like, not revenge, but that's the wrong word. No, but, making things wrong, right, that were
Making
wrong.
things right, that's right.
And came up with a mediation program called MEND to help create communication between residents and venues and have non-enforcement solutions and all things like that. And then in April, I stepped aside to pass the baton so what I built could carry on. And now I do global government consulting, helping other governments around the world create offices of nightlife.
Things you could not have anticipated.
Because I love the nightlife.
Absolutely.
And that's it. And I did what I love.
back to when you do what you love, it
Yes.
does not necessarily take on the energy of work. Yes, it is work. I heard you loud and clear.
All the stress of trying to figure out what am I going to do, what am I going to do for the rest of my life, and all that pressure that students put on themselves with their major and their career path. Like, just
Go.
and just do it. And the open doors that you didn't know were open, that Pat said,
Yes.
you just follow your heart. And I would say just don't go too far outside your inner circle. You know, you have, especially in New York, everyone you need and everything you need.
What I'm also hearing is that it's just as okay to figure out what you want to do
As you
and
go.
pursue it as much as it is for you to find out there's something you don't like, but you have to do the thing in order to know whether you like it or not. So we have to learn to celebrate failure and be okay when things don't work out the way we anticipate, and embrace it when it does, or it brings blessings upon blessings in ways you didn't anticipate. I'm going to jump over to you. Talk to us about what a day looks like for you. Like paint a day today.
Today was not a great day.
Tell us why.
They're busy. They're varied. The thing that I love about the work that I do is that you can, I'll come to work or I'll be going to work with sort of a notion of what I'm going to get done that day. And most times
That doesn't happen.
it's a completely different day, just because a call will come in or something will change or a decision will be made or a news story breaks that affects people around me. And that's it's challenging, but it's exciting. That's what keeps it interesting. I don't think there is, with events, the kind of tactical jobs that you have to do are kind of the same. You're programming it, you're marketing it, you're working out the production around it. That's a lot of the steps, but everything that's happening around any particular event is constantly moving and changing. So that's where you have to really be able to pivot and be comfortable shifting gears and making decisions. And like, if someone doesn't show up at your event, or what you do, you just
right, because
so
the show
that's
must
kind
go
of what
on.
keeps it exciting. It keeps it crazy but exciting.
So you're okay with not knowing what tomorrow brings, or that no 2 days are ever the same. The fast pace by which the industry is moving, it works for you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Talk to us, Pat.
I don't even look at my calendar until the morning when I get up, so I know what I'm supposed to be doing that day. And I think I've just arrived at that. That wasn't always the case.
Is it freeing to do that? So you're not obsessing over it the night before?
I've got enough to obsess over without
Without
work the next day is. But you plan for these things ahead.
Yeah.
But then you kind of back in and say, oh, that's what I'm doing at 9 o'clock.
Right.
Thank you very much. And these days, I have to say, very different from the past. My days are consumed with Zoom still. So I'm either in-person meetings in the office. We've returned to a 3-day, we're working a hybrid schedule, and we're 3 days in the office and 2 days from home. And we're doing programs primarily on Thursday and Friday, and then on Saturday as well. But I think that between, the thing that I think is the most consuming is to plan it to death so that every single element you've worked out, and also to consider that there may be emergencies, there may be the thing that doesn't work.
I totally 100% plan it to death, because then you have the comfort that when something goes wrong, because something always goes wrong, you don't have to freak out about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're in a good place. You're like, okay,
Exactly. And I think my freaking out moments are behind.
good for you. Why you're getting there?
Yeah, get behind
Good
me.
for you.
freaking out moments. So that's what my day is like. I thought I was going to be here early, and that didn't happen. Because I was in meetings and communicating actually with one of our major funders. I was so thrilled. I was like, okay, I'm going to get there when I get there. Because that was the last thing that I was doing and coordinating that. So it's been exciting. And I think that it's fair to say, oh, maybe I should, never mind. I'm not going to say that because it's not been announced. So at any rate, my days have been filled with meetings. I've got a great staff, got some very smart young people who've come into the organization, and that is thrilling me because they're exhibiting organizational skills that I never had. Trust me. My life has been so spontaneous. It's like, oh, I'm going to do this now and that. But these are people who are actually organized and have charts and have Google documents. Oh my God. I'm like, well, whatever.
They allow you to be free and do your best work because they're taking on that stuff.
Exactly. So that's what my day.
I appreciate you because, you know, we don't often speak in this way about pre-COVID, post-COVID, but we have to because what the world was like is no longer. And we had to all figure out ways to pivot. And so, yes, now you're on Zoom calls all day.
That's right.
We got to get you out of the house.
Planning.
Yes.
You know, some phone calls as well, writing, reviewing documents, which is, you know, I have to say when they're really well done, they're inspiring.
Yeah.
And when they're not, they're tedious and it requires your editing and working on them to make them better. But I think more than anything, what I appreciate is the team spirit, because I really do believe that you're building consensus. You're saying, this is what I want. What are you all wanting? Do you believe this? Can we do it this way? But I think if you can have a process that is as democratic as it can be, because democracy doesn't always work.
That's right.
But if you can pull people in to come to the point where they have a common vision and you can implement those visions together, that's what my days are like.
I appreciate you sharing that. My takeaway in what you just said is that there's the discussion table that everyone's been invited to, and then there's the decision table, and not everybody's been invited to the decision table. Amen?
That was better than
Right?
what you said, but I like it. I'll buy that.
Thank you. I have to go over to you, Saida. I want to know, considering the conversation we're having, and I'm going to make this very specific to your background, as someone with experience in marketing, content creation, and producing, how does your marketing experience help you as you're navigating as an executive producer? Talk to me about how you're allowing all of your skills to build so that even conversations we're having now, wherever one may be in their career trajectory, it is okay to not know it all or to figure out your ladder is not necessarily up against the right wall, but I think you have, so go for it.
I think marketing is always in my back pocket in every decision I make. I think for better or for worse, I look at a lot of things through the marketing lens. Some people love that. Some people hate that. But I always think about, that broadening opportunity and how do you make those links all to come together. So, yeah, there's sometimes I have to put on, the production hat. It's like I got to get down to the nitty gritty and the basics. It's like, okay, how do we make this vendor happy? How do we get this off the ground? Like, we've got to have this conversation. What's going on? But while doing that, you need to be able to turn on and use and access those other skills. Always have a toolkit. That's the one thing I tell everybody. It's like, don't ever narrow yourself into one lane because then you're not versatile enough to bounce out. I will say that you will see that now with some people of my or certain age that they're having this issue around, like, for example, AI. The idea of AI and some of these new emerging technologies or whatever are throwing people into a tizzy. They cannot figure out how to pivot, or they didn't have those other items in their toolbox to move along. Gather as much as you can in the world and put it together. Don't let people tell you, oh, you're doing too much. You need to specialize. No, I got that my full career. And it's like, it used to be that it was looked poorly upon if you change jobs every couple of years. But
not anymore.
Always consider that you're gaining knowledge. You're gaining knowledge from different places as you're putting that in the toolkit and you're carrying that toolkit with you or that tool belt for the rest of your life.
That's right.
That's how I look at a lot of things. There are times that also I got to get in my head about, okay, artist relations or curatorial skills. That is a different subset of a mentality you have because you have to switch on to okay, who am I talking to? What egos do I have to massage here? Like, what play-by-plays do we have? What people do we have to take care of? Okay, is my budget going to work? Do I have to talk crazy to this person? Get this one? There's a lot of things that you just have to manage. Yeah, but even within that, look for your marketing opportunity. Look for the way that, oh, okay, this relationship is really, really smart because we can use this and grab this content and pivot here and explore. Grab as much as you can. My working days are really quite pleasant because I'm collaborating with such a tight team. Make sure that, like Ms. Pat said, you know and work with people that bring really great strengths to the board and that you like doing it together. That makes my days really, really pleasant. I think I thrive the best collaborating. I know that there are some jobs, and my last one in tech, there was a big kind of like hoarding of information kind of culture. Like, I know how to do this. You don't. That makes me a specialist. I can't do it ever. Find those opportunities and find those people that want to collaborate, share ideas, build, network, and you're doing it for the growth. I think that makes almost every day pleasant. Realistically, there are going to be some days where it is tough. Like, I had a gut punch of the day yesterday, but it's like, you have to learn about taking that stress and taking those challenges. And, sometimes you may need to put it on a back burner and let it step away from it. So, post-COVID again, stress is different. Realize how stress works with your body and how it will affect the way that you work and the way that you relate to things. Because when you're stressed, an email reads one way, and when you're not stressed, it can read another. So that if you know that you're hot and you read that email, you hit, I'm gonna reply. Take that walk around the block, turn on the TV for an hour, listen to something. That's right. It's a podcast. Let it go. You have to learn to put that stress in world. That stress is on a level.
Yes, it is.
It's a different sort of stress. I'm sure many of you can relate. But it's different from anything else because sometimes it comes in those zings that it pops. You're just like, oh my God, this is
it stuns.
Or and it sustains and then it stops.
And then it stops.
And you're breathing and you're like, oh, it's okay. And it's 2 or 3 in the morning and I still got this adrenaline. I'm stressed. And everybody else is just leading within you or just whatever.
No, you
take care of yourself. Learn to manage your stress, and those are the 2 things that I think I can recommend on having successful work days and work challenges. Get your toolkit together, gather and glean all that information, and find a way that it's useful and you can carry it for the rest of your life and into any job that you have. And it took me a long time, to a big age, to realize don't carry that stress with you. Don't care. You can't. There's a lot of stuff you gotta let it go.
Amen. Yes. If you are thinking of questions, get it tight and right, and then meet us at the microphones. And for those of you in the ether, in virtual space in the living room, please send the questions through the invitation. You'll know who to send it to, and we'll hear those as well. And then before we do that, I have to come over to my nightlife mayor and ask the question, coming out of the pandemic in particular, where we were all hunkered down and trying to figure out who we wanted to be coming out of the pandemic, where do you see opportunities for some of these young people here and dialing in who want to work in the nightlife industry? Because I have to say, you made it sound very sexy. Your journey, as circuitous as it may be, is for a purpose. Talk to some of us about, if we were interested, where do we even go to begin to start down that path?
Well, I think purpose is the right word, right? You have to know your purpose and the way you can help and the way you can serve and how you can contribute to the greater good, right? So whatever that is, if you want to be in a social event environment, what are you bringing? Are you a great organized thinker? Do you know music? Do you know DJs? Do you know tons and tons of cool people in fashion that you can invite? Are you a good bartender? You have to do what you love to do and also figure out how it helps everyone else. And I think that's just universally true. And I think back to the toolbox, you can have your work toolbox, but you also have to have your self-care toolbox. And so you actually have to carry 2 boxes with you. And, you know, for me, my whole life, even though it sounds like it's all about the party, it's been about, you know, creating space, creating diversity, creating uplifting energy and a feeling of unification and people feeling, you know, alive and loved and, you know, feeling good. And then moving into government, it's how can I help to protect and preserve and defend and help venues and artists and workers that are navigating that. And now, you know, I had, in between each thing, I took like 3 months off, 6 months off, because I had to like reset myself, recenter myself, figure out what do I want to do? I can do anything now. What's going to make me happy, help other people, get me paid.
How do you reset? And then we're going right to our audience. So please feel free to very gently and gingerly line up at the microphones if you are so interested. And I have more questions if you all don't. Okay.
I mean, I reset by knowing what centers me, what, you know, I like to go to a beach. I meditate. I do yoga. I don't worry.
Yes.
Right? You have to have
Can you
faith.
say more about that? You don't?
No.
Until D-O-N apostrophe.
Do not worry.
Can you say more about how
Because
you do that?
worry clouds your mind and then worry clouds your heart and it sabotages your flow. And we're meant to trust, you know, our path. We're meant to trust our talent. We're meant to trust our instincts. And if you are worried and stressed and you don't believe in yourself, then everything you believe isn't going to come true is exactly true.
Ooh.
So you have to
Manifest
always
destiny.
believe. It is all about manifesting. You have to believe the highest possibilities. Aim as high as you can. Know you can do it. But the only way you know you can do it is by knowing yourself and knowing what you can do and knowing what you love. And if it's something you love, then that's what you're meant to do. Then just do it.
Okay, you heard that. Like Nike, just do it. Okay, we're going to start with you. Please share your name and the question, and then we're going to bounce back and forth. Please.
So my name is Paul, and so my question is about promotion of events. How do you go about promoting?
Well, in the nightlife world, you know, like owning a club or doing events, like I would always gauge with myself. Do I want to be here? Is this cool? Is this something I want to go to? And then once I realize like this is cool and this is someplace I want to be, then I think there's so many layers of communication. There's the image, there's the colors, there's the font, there's, you know, now there's the reels, there's partnering with other people that know more people than you do or other people, because people, there's only so much reach you have. And then eventually you're just going to use the same people over and over, and they want to go somewhere else, right? It's not even personal. They just want to do something else. I had a place for 10 years. My friends can't come every day, you know? So you have to like know who to align with, who has shared vision, who has good vibes, who has good reach. And then you got to like make it cool. You know, make it look cool, know who you're talking to, what do they want to see, where do they want to go, and then make sure they know about it, and then remind them about it, and then socialize about it. And that's basically it. And get famous people. The celebrity really helps also. Influencers or people that people respect or admire or love. Like once in a while, it's okay to throw in, you know, somebody super famous if you can get them.
That's right. Able to get them.
On different levels, because, you know, I know not everybody has instant access. You know, I moved here from the Midwest. I didn't know, folks, you're lucky that you grew up here and you had probably that, you know, I didn't start going out in New York City till I was 23. And so for me, I found the challenge to be, it's networking. Like, get it, you know, it's probably easy for me to say pre-COVID that was just how you met people. I met some of the craziest folks that, you know, if you'd known them when they were in their 20s, you're like, oh, that person, man, but now they're running magazines. And now they're like, have multi-million-dollar companies or whatever. But, it is about just those moments of getting out there and meeting people. Like, I think a face-to-face, safely with the mask if possible, is the best thing that you can do. If you can't do that, I think some of the things mentioned really are smart. It's like, make sure that whatever you're involved with, like whatever music scene, whatever, if you're in a film or whatever, it's got to have good vibes. Like if it's sketchy off the bat, you can expect that the product is going to be sketchy. Like always go in with the most positive, good vibes. If it gives you a good feeling, gut feelings are real. If it has a good gut feeling to you, or you like the people that you're doing, or you feel refreshed by the work, keep going with it. If it sets you off, or there's a twinge of like, your passion's out there, you got to let it go. Look for message boards, groups that do things like, I got involved very early. There's kind of a pretty famous music industry group called the Mishpuka that is like all of these music industry folks that like all the way from publicists all the way up to artists. Like it's kind of nuts. Find out where those different boards are. Like Mishpuka still exists. Like, there's ones for like friends. I know that there's a really crazy one for people that love A24 movies. Like that's the only thing they're gonna do. They get together and meet and they watch movies and they talk. But it's like across the board, people find your people. Like
Find your tribe.
But that's like networking and digging in are really it. And I will say, if you are trying to rise it up to that level, we are in the era, for now, I think it is changing a little bit, of the influencer. Find like that person to partner with, or somebody that can get you that access, or somebody that's willing to kind of share the promotion load. We're in that era. I see a little bit of that influencer culture starting to die off a little bit, but it's still around now.
So then you get to find what the iteration of that's going to be. I love that.
We're all
Influence. Thank you. Please.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Leah Rogers. It's nice to be in your presence. So I'm a recent graduate from the College of New Jersey, and
as much as I'm passionate about music and want to get in that industry, my experience is separate from that. So I guess my experience from you, having experience in event planning, being an RA, being a substitute teacher, being an AKA, all those things kind of just influence that event planning persona and just creating that community in my spaces. How can I highlight my skills and attributes to interviewers or even applications to make it seem like I'm a more appealing candidate, especially if I don't have that music background?
Who's that trovert?
I would just say show your passion. Yeah. It does. I think it was in your video, right?
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah. It says like the people who are hiring, they want to see enthusiasm, willingness, energy, passion, willingness to learn. Like people want to be around good people. So I would just say let your true self shine and know what you don't know. Let them know what you're good at. Let them know what you're willing to do. Let them know. Always just say, how can I help you?
Yes.
People need help.
You can also think about the folks who are doing the work that you want to do.
Yeah.
And perspective take here first and then go pursue them. So your network, you should be leveraging your network, and not just your network, but your network's network. So that expands. And each time you meet someone that you think is even giving you what you think you want to do, then you ask them, who else in your network should I talk to, should I meet with? If you did that and they gave you 5 names, and then you go meet with those people and they give you 5 names, we can do the math. Yep. Leverage your network. Don't make things heavier or harder than they need to be, girlfriend.
And I would just say, don't, you sound like, well, I don't know this. I don't like, don't lead with what you don't know, in the sense, like, don't you sound like you don't sound like you think you're qualified. So if you have to believe that you're the right person for this, regardless of what you know, because of who you are, not because of where you've been or what you know or don't know. You just have to believe that you're the right one. If they don't think so, they won't.
You got it, girl. Go on a listening tour and take lots of notes and create a manifestation box. We don't all come with the skills that we need for opportunities. Women tend to say, oh no, there's 10 things and I only have 8. I don't have the other 2. Men, do the exact opposite.
They don't.
They may have one thing on that list of 10 and they're like, I'm overqualified. I mean, there's something to be said for that. We could take a page out of their book, take a risk, right? Take a risk. And if you're an introvert, because I'm an extrovert and I can identify my energies, saddle yourself up next to an extrovert, but get a partner, someone who's even thinking that they're interested in what you're interested in, so that you're not going it alone.
Yeah, she's not lying. A good friend of mine is an HR lead at Harvard, and she studies this stuff. And she even had to tell me, she was like, Saida, the way that women and men go into professional opportunities is absolutely different. She was like, you would be awed at the audacity that like some men will just put into the way that they present themselves in some things. I think that women are very much reserved, like, oh, I don't want to kind of like do this. No, she was like, you had to ask for those informational interviews. You must talk to people because there is a market, a proven research difference of the way that we do it. You have to put yourself out there, sell your best attributes.
That's right.
Don't be afraid. Do it in a respectful way because it's like, you don't want to send a funky email to anybody. That's kind of like,
That is a balance.
like, open yourself up.
That's right.
Don't be apologetic about who you are.
I'm sorry, because we could do this all day.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure we get all the people. But that's why we'll be here when this is formally wrapping up. Grab us. Like the guy in the video said, oh, I'm all up in their face. Be all up in our face. Okay. Yes, sir. Come on.
Finally, also find the place that you respect, that you want to work in.
And that will respect you.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ronald Odom. Thank you all for being here. This has already been more than I could have imagined, and I'm so happy to have met you all. And thanks for the gems that have already been dropped. So a little bit about me. My name is Ronald Odom, and I have a background in hospitality and business entrepreneurship and small business consulting in the community. But over the pandemic, I transitioned into media and film and entertainment. And I have experience with live events. My question is, when you filled your tool basket and planned everything to death and identified the opportunities to connect and collaborate, and you have a pitch deck together and you have a meeting, how do you make the right ask to be able to actually execute the vision? Because I find that I can dream it up, I can plan it, I can have 12 pages of an outline, I can have a beautiful presentation, but if you can't get the money or the funding to do it, or you don't know how to get those partnerships to say, yes, here's 100,000, or you're not asking for enough money, or you need this one relationship to be able to get me to say yes. Like, how do you get through that tunnel?
If you ladies don't mind, I'm going to punch this one over to Miss Pat.
That's fine. Then you've done the punch. I think that what you want to do is find the one funder, the one resource, the one supporter who believes what you want to do, who believes in you, and who also believes in the work that you want to do. Because what you do is then you work with that, you've proven yourself to that one source, and they can help you to find others who want to buy into and support your effort. And I think that's important. Know that what I understand is people don't necessarily support organizations. They support people. And you want to make it your appeal to be based on who you are and what's your core. And then you build from there, the program, and find the resources to support it. And the institutions that are already doing it. Because what you want to do is lend your skill in organizing to that organization, and then you can go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, my name is Joey. I'm an event producer. Thank you all for being here. It's been so great to hear and learn from you all. My question is, I've planned and worked on a lot of events, and my experience the day of is like usually me running around giving water bottles to people all day, and then like before I know it, at the end of the day, like the event is over and I've completely missed the event that I've spent the last 9 months planning. I just want to know how, you know, in the cases that all of you have excelled in your careers, like, does that ever change? And like, is there, have you been able to like implement ways where you can actually experience the event that you spent so much time planning?
It doesn't change. You know? Because you're the producer, your job is to make sure all the little things are going right. So you can't be in the theater watching the show while that's happening. I mean, you can for some of it, but I all the events I do, I kind of laugh that there's so much time and there's such a team and that spends so much time creating the segments for a conference or creating the content. And I realize I'm sort of like, I almost don't pay attention to it because at the end of the day, they can talk about whatever they want on stage. I just have to make sure the cameras are on and the lights are on and everything, the audience is happy and the mic, you know, so I think it's just part of the job. But it's over. When it's over, you step back and you say, this whole big thing and all these people that experience this thing, I did because of me. That's why we do this.
Yeah. They go to somebody else's event to enjoy it.
Words well spoken, and or I mean, you know, when those pockets get fat, then you can hire someone to be your number two, and then you get to sit back like a fat cat and watch everyone else run around.
Kinda. Not if you really care.
Well, that's right.
If you really care, you're still going to care about every little thing, and that doesn't. You might be able to sit back and have a drink for a minute and talk to somebody, but you're always going to see everything that's going wrong, not everything that's going right.
That's right.
It's like people, they love nightlife, and they're like, I want to open a bar. Well, you will never enjoy that bar. Everything you love about being in a bar, when you own a bar, you will never do it again in your bar.
And that's why, I find it the best, like the event producers, people that are, you know, handling those events, they're never standing still. They're standing still. You're like, ooh, something's not right.
You don't care.
There's a fire somewhere.
We call them perimeter. I'm on perimeter.
Yeah.
And like, I'll stop somewhere, maybe say hi to a friend. I am notorious for cutting off friends. Be like, if I gotta go, I gotta go over here. That's like the worst thing that ever happened to me. There's a band that I love more than anything that I grew up with. Like, they're called Depeche Mode. I produced New York, NPR produced South by Southwest, the opening night at Stubbs, this massive venue. And it was rammed. It was a crazy lineup. A bunch of my friends came because I forgot who was on stage, and like I'm talking with them. And I was just like, hey, it's been kind of quiet on the radio. I was like, I gotta go. And I leave. I see my friends 20 minutes later, they come running over to me. They're like, guess who we just met? And I was like, who? They're like, Dave DeHaan, the lead singer of Depeche Mode. He came over and just started talking to us. I was like, and they were like, oh yeah, he came over like 2 minutes after you left. I was like, that's the only time I've ever been mad about me for him around. But I think if you're standing too still for too long, I'm always a little where I'm like, you a little fuss. Yeah, that's what like this and that's going on.
I would just say, you have to love that part of what you're doing. You gotta love doing, getting people to water barrels and love all the hustle behind it. If you don't love it, if that's not what you love, then you gotta do some other part of it. Because we love that hustle. We love that behind the scenes. We love putting everything together. If you're like aggravated by that and you're like, I should be doing somewhere else, then you should be somewhere else.
That's such good advice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on, darling.
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm also a producer, and I want to ask about people management. So what are your tips for managing your teams and those difficult conversations that can come up in a stressful event that has a lot of moving parts?
Managing
Let's manage a little bit.
One thing I firmly believe in is to play to people's strengths on your team and identify who's good at what. Don't try to make one person do a thing when they're not comfortable with it. To an extent, you want people to grow and learn, but if your team feels good about the parts that they own they're doing, I think that always works really. I think that's the kind of the smoothest way to run an event team. Talk to everyone, keep everyone, like when I have a team we're producing a conference or an event or whatever, I want us all, like, I think a weekly meeting or more often when we're all in the room, whether you're doing programming or you're doing marketing or you're doing this, I want us all in the room at least once a week, updating each other. Because I firmly believe that we are all on the same ship going to the same place. And we all need to know what we're all doing and why. And it can't be siloed. Like, I don't care about that because I'm just selling sponsorships, or I don't care about that because I'm just on production. So I think it's like really like make those opportunities with your team to all be together. So I understand what you do and why that's important, even though it's not what I do. And I understand what you do. And I think that's really important. Difficult conversations, I mean, they're difficult. But, I think it's better to just be short, sweet, straight up with the person, honest as much as you can, kind, just like you would in your regular life.
And I would complement that point with, it's just a recommendation. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is one of my favorite books for management. And in the spirit of everyone is not operating in the same way, you need to know what makes each person tick. It's like being a teacher in a classroom of 30. They're all not learning the same way. And your job is to try to figure out how to meet them where they are. So a version of the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team and Who's My Cheese is my other favorite. It's a quick and easy read. If you're in the city, by one stop to the other, you'll be done. Share these books with your team. And at some point, when appropriate, when time allows, have some downtime with your team so that it's not all just grind, work, work, work. Where's the glue that allows you all to stick together? Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm Matt, Center for Communications event intern, also graduated recently from Baruch College.
Congratulations.
And thank you, I appreciate it. But thank you for coming today. I wonder, a big question I have is, basically, when was that moment when you knew in your specific fields, each one of you, when you knew that you got it? You knew that that was the moment. What specific thing may have you done, like a specific email you sent, maybe even like putting out a portfolio or specific thing you did in your resume? I would love to know a little bit about that.
Thank you.
I don't know, like, I guess, like, as you're, like, when you're young and, like, you're still haven't really felt like you've been seen or heard, it's so frustrating. You're like, I know I can do more. I know I can, nobody really knows who I am and what I can do. And, like, you feel like you're a bottle of champagne with a cork on it. You just want to burst. And, like, you feel frustrated because you don't feel seen and heard. And then, eventually, I think for me was, like, when I ultimately bought my bar, and I had this blank canvas and I had this thing to just be able to spew out all this creativity and create things on a regular basis, and people were seeing it and loving it and getting the feedback, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, people see me, I see them. It's like, I think eventually when you're in your stride and when you're doing what you love and people are giving you that feedback, then you feel seen. And until then, you're going to be frustrated. And that frustration is exactly what's going to keep you fighting to be seen. So don't see it as a negative thing. Just follow your frustration and see it as a positive, and don't stop being frustrated until you feel that sense of relief that people see you for how you see.
And Matt, don't put so much pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Don't look for just one long-term.
Yeah.
Multiple moments that you should have, that you want to have. So don't put that pressure on yourself that it's this one magical moment. There'll be multiple moments that will continue to be your North Star, and it can change as you go through your career. So give yourself grace.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikki.
Good one.
Hello. Hi. Okay, red glasses. Hi.
I know. Oh, red looks stunning, by the way. Let me just say that. Like, dishes are fire, man. So, one of my questions, what did you learn from the most disappointing aspects of your careers?
Disappointing
Something that you said at the top, learn how to fail with grace. I was taught early on that failure is not an option. And, I think in the first time that I actually had something go poorly or I got really critical feedback to the point where, you have that first moment of like, whoops, I'm sorry, I'm going to do this. They want to get it. You have to learn to sometimes take that and take it with a lot of grace, because I think that sometimes, not even sometimes, failures are a moment to learn.
Yes.
Yeah. Always get something positive out of those moments where and also be honest if you messed up. That's something that I learned really quickly, because you see other people do it and it's not, don't lie if you get caught doing something badly, or don't be weird or funky about it or mad or whatever. Accept it with grace, like take that criticism and give it to yourself as well. I think that was the biggest challenge, because you know what, I was like maybe 27, 28 around there. And I got like fired from my first job. And it was something that I just never crossed my mind to be so that it could happen. That could happen.
Yeah.
But it was one of the greatest learning experiences I had. It made me strike out on my own. And, I became a consultant for a lot of years that worked for amazing people. But that challenge, I was mad at first, but then I took it as a learning moment. Take failure as a learning opportunity.
And I'll add to that, a setback is really a setup for something better. We just don't know it at the moment. So sometimes disappointments and failures are actually blessings, that it was time to stop the journey you were on and enter into a different or switch lanes. And I believe in God, I was going to say the universe, Buddha, whoever it is that you look to for a higher sense of energy, just know that your steps are already ordered. So the failures are supposed to happen to get you to catapult into something better and greater.
Can I say my grace is my mom?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Hello.
Hello. Hi. My name is Lynn Rutledge. I was an executive for Showtime Networks and other channels for many years. Had to pull off many events. And, I have a day job where I'm the inside ad agency to a nonprofit. And I teach for the last many years the business of media at LIU. And one of the things I realized with, the chairman of a company saying, you have good news and bad news, which one do you want first? The good news, you have 30 days to own New Orleans. What's the bad news? You have 30 days to own New Orleans. But I learned, and I hear from so many executives, they don't see critical thinking in the people that are coming in. And I'm asking everybody here, look up Google critical thinking and go to images. And it has so many pieces of graphics that teach you how to think critically. If you're not thinking critically, you can't figure any of this out. And also I want to ask, do you ever use strategic briefs or creative briefs? We were told at MTV Network, Showtime, anywhere, you can't start a project without a brief. I tell people who shoot on for videos on a rooftop, if your crew shows up and nobody has a brief, they don't know what they're doing. So I'm just throwing that out. Do you find critical thinking important, and do you ever tell that to people?
Yes. Okay. Everything you said, I agree with. I think that there are different skill sets that people are coming into jobs that are missing and lacking, and critical thinking is really,
and writing skills. But you can put that put that way over here. But if they learn how to think,
the next panel, that's the next panel. And yes, world, please research how to write a brief. Absolutely, there are some industries you will not be able to survive in, and they will notice quickly and they will need you out.
Right. It's called creative brief or strategic brief. You can look them up on Google.
Absolutely.
But critical thinking charts,
you will not survive a day.
That's something.
Not like your project will go nowhere. They'll sit there and they'll be like, why didn't you know how to do this? Ad agencies.
Or one day someone will tap you and say, you do the creative brief for that meeting, and you'll freeze because you don't really know what that is.
Thank you for that. Appreciate the counsel and advice. Thank you. Hi.
Hello, my name is Vanessa, and I am an adjunct professor at LIU as well in film and communications, and I worked at Paramount. I do some consulting on underrepresented groups, representation in film and TV, and I'm looking to pivot. And so my question is, are any of your teams hiring? And if so, do you hire people like myself with, various different backgrounds?
I love it. And if you don't mind, ladies, we'll be here on the back end. So you better work your show. Because closed mouths do not get fed. And you just put your intentions out in front because you don't know where there may be an opportunity. Yep. So as long as, are you all committing to being here for a few minutes? Oh, sure can. Girl, work the room on the back end. Got you. Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you.
You know that while many of us may not be hiring now, yes, there will be openings. So this thing is going to make yourself now prepare.
I will. I'm coming up to you, okay?
Yeah,
for everybody. Like, what do you practice all the advice you've been talking?
Stay ready at all times.
It's a strategic brief, not just for your events, but for your life.
For your life.
Strategy is very important. You're not just going with the flow, but you have to know at least a few steps in advance of where you're going. Strategy and planning is the key to a successful event and in a successful life.
Yes. Hi. I just wanted to thank you all for your time and, for being here. It's been very nice hearing your stories of how you got to where you were. My name is Lean. I'm a graduating senior at NYU in media and communications with a minor in entertainment business as well. And so recently, my question is I have been very proactive and assertive in leveraging my network through my professors in past classes that I've taken at NYU and also within my minor in entertainment business. And I've also been trying to utilize my network through LinkedIn. And so, I've been really trying to get on networking calls and try to meet people who work in similar roles that I would be interested in at companies that I would like to work at. And so, I've been doing that for a while now. And I've also been noticing that a lot of people have been saying it's been very important to try to leverage your network because that can really change the game for you. But what I've been noticing is that a lot of times they either, there isn't really a referral system at a company that I would like to work at, or they just maybe not maybe they just don't know the right people when I try to expand and grow my network even further and ask who else should I talk to. They don't really know anyone else within their company because every division is sort of very divided. And so there's two parts to my question. The first part.
Take your time. It can be nerve-wracking. It's okay. We're here with you.
Yeah. So the first part of my question is, how useful do you think leveraging my network is in trying to meet new people through LinkedIn? How do you think that will help me in the job searching process? And the second part of my question is, more recently, because I'm getting closer to graduation, I've been trying to reach out to recruiters, but they get so many messages throughout the day that they just get inundated and they sometimes just don't respond. Yes. And so, especially at these bigger companies where they get thousands of applications, what is your advice to for me to set myself apart through thousands of applicants and they get inundated with messages? How could I set myself apart so that a recruiter can notice my message?
So I'm absolutely a fan of leveraging your network, and you are. I am also a fan of cold emails and reaching out. That's why we have all these chats on every platform possible. Take advantage of that. But also look at the profiles of the people, right? The names. And what I love about LinkedIn is even if you're not connected to the people your people are connected to, it shows you we recommend, or here's like a list of recommendations, or because you looked at this person's profile, we would recommend that you look at this person's profile. So just be open to all the ways this information can come to you and talk to your peers. Yeah. Right? People are figuring it out, and sometimes we just have to attach ourselves to the proper circle in that moment. And it may not be that it's the folks that are sitting in the front row seat of your life right now. You may have to look up in the balcony and say, who's doing what I want to do, and talk to them and then ask them about their network. So it's one thing to work the network, but you actually have to go where folks have an appetite for the work that you'd like to do. And then you have to pick their brain. Everybody's not going to have good counsel and advice for you. You have to be careful where you're going. You want to talk to people that are actually doing the work you want to do. And in that way, putting yourself out there and talking to everyone. I once knew a young lady who sent notes to like over 100 people on LinkedIn. Only 3 people got back to her, but one of those 3 hired her. So you never know where your next opportunity is going to come from, and you just have to keep beating the pavement. Nothing is ever going to just be poured over you, as my grandmother said.
If there's a job or a company that you want to, I mean, I'm sure you know all of this stuff with LinkedIn. So saying like you want to work at Spotify, go to Spotify page, look at people, and then like see who those, like click that, like the link for people. Look and see who like the people are on like the people team, you know, HR, whatever they call it. You know, strategy folks, I think are good ones because sometimes they're like so in the weeds on stuff. They would love to take a call that's off of that. The nice thing to do is don't ask for like what I've always been told and what I recommend is like, don't ask for an hour. Like a lot of people really do have like a pretty powered up workday. Ask for an informational call, ask for 15 minutes of their time. Kind of just like, can I just bend your ear a little bit about that? I agree that, you know, like first, second, third degrees are really good. And you said NYU?
Yes.
Sometime afterwards, I'm on, and you're Clyde Davis?
Okay.
I'm on the advisory.
Oh, nice. That's really interesting.
See, okay, that's why I say all the time, closed mouths don't get fed. You have to say what you want and be intentional, and you did just that.
But as a senior, that's what we're supposed to. That's why you're supposed to reach out to like folks that are on those boards and whatnot. So we can definitely start that journey up for you. Like we should definitely always, you know, use those things. That's why, you know, schools like, universities like that, but these music the projects bring people on. So that we can help you along those journeys. And I, you know, that's what I didn't have that when I was growing up. So I definitely would love to, at least I can guide you through. So maybe the staff and the other people on the boards, but that's it, back.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm old school. My thing is go to the places where you believe in that they're doing work that you want. Look for internships, fellowships, and kill it. So that when you want to leave, they're saying, oh, no, I think we can find a place for you.
That's right.
Because you have become indispensable. And that, I think, is critical. Because I think those are some real learning opportunities that expand upon what you've gotten in school.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is all really great advice. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Elson. I'm a musical artist, so I'm not sure if this question is like career related, but it's really specific. It's about what you've been talking about, and that's why I stood up. And my question is like, how would you prepare an event strategy for like a niche that you may or may not be a part of? I don't know. I mean, I know it's like a long question, but I think I'm just trying to think about how you would think about it.
And can you repeat that?
How would you learn to develop a strategy for a niche that you may or may not be a part of? So, like, I think you said you were thinking about events that you want to go to, like maybe like a half an hour ago. But I think it's along the lines of that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a basic fundamental template for events in general that, you know, getting a room, making sure the sound system is good, making sure there's a bar, making sure there's staff, making sure there's security. Like, it's a blank canvas. You have to create a blank canvas. And then what you fill in that canvas, like a nightclub, it was having an empty room, and every night it could be something different. So it's just the basic mechanics of event planning and security and entertainment and crowd flow and feng shui and all the things that make a good vibe. And then once you have those basic mechanics, which are led by the necessities that you need, right? Like, you know, everyone's like, how do you know what to do? It's like, well, we ran out of vodka, so I bought vodka. You know, we ran, you know, like, you just, what do you need? And then you fulfill the needs. And then the niche is just your personal touch and your audience.
That's a good one. I like this one.
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
Also, research the heck out of anything. Like,
yes.
Don't be ashamed to admit you don't know everything. Like, yeah.
Or bring in people who know better than you.
With you. So, yeah, just gather as much knowledge as you can about it. But, yeah, don't be scared to dive in and learning the things.
Yeah.
Thanks. I know what to expect.
Thank you. And the last question of the evening.
Good evening, ladies. Is that too loud? I'm sorry. Thank you, ladies, for being here tonight. I really appreciate you all taking the time to come out here. I wanted to ask you, I'm in a weird post-grad phase, and I think we can all remember where you're kind of figuring out how exactly you put your foot in the water, but I found myself that after a certain point, I started to lose touch with myself, and I wanted to ask you, what did you do when you felt like you needed to rekindle your passion?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, that's a great way to wrap it up. Well, I remain prayerful, right? Like I go to a higher energy around the things that I cannot control, the things that I feel like it's a fool's errand. So I focus on what I can control. There's a version of this, right? Like control the things you can, be okay with things that you can't. I think therapy is helpful in getting refocused. There's something about the last 3 years coming out of being in a space of you can't go outside. There are all the things you couldn't do. Mm-hmm. And I think that had an effect on some of us insofar as how we feel. Some people suffer from winter blues, right? You being thoughtful enough to just know there are moments that you'll feel disconnected. What are the things that you enjoy doing? What are your passion points? What are the things that you enjoy that don't require you to have to give a whole lot of intellectual energy? You just find that that's where you are. So for me, that's prayer. I have every 2 weeks, I bring a masseuse in for a 2-hour massage because you need to know what is going to fill up your cup. I'm sure you're filling up other people's cup. How do you fill up your cup? You are the only one that's going to know the answer for how you'll feel full. For me, that's how I feel full and go into worship. So you just have to think about that space that you need to be in. If that's meditation, if that's yoga, as my sister said earlier, push away from the desk and take a walk. We don't need to wait till we're frustrated to do it. We should probably do it proactively to get away from that screen. So dig a little deeper on what it is that you enjoy doing that doesn't necessarily require you to have to go somewhere. It comes from within. That's my answer.
Follow your passion. And us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is truly talk about a fireside chat and being able to just hear in a very real, textured way what our days look like, how you got where you are, and to the extent that you have questions after that you either did not want to ask in front of others, which is also okay, please reach out to them on LinkedIn. There are always ways to keep in touch, especially when you get to say, this is where you were, and this was the event, or Instagram, or all the other socials. And then I'm just gonna wrap this up and say, be accountable to yourself and to others. I heard out loud, critical thinking is critical. The idea of closed mouths don't get fed. Have a toolkit, and it's not just one. This is not a one-pony show. You need to have multiple tools, and you can have multiple kits, and you'll know as you get nicer with it, well, what toolkit do I need today? Because you'll have it right here in your pocket, and you know exactly what your superpower is and how you need to pull it out. There's the discussion and the decision-making table. You should know which table you're being invited to. We don't all get invited to both. Be okay with that. That's part of growing pains and being in any work environment. It is okay to reset. Mental health and wellness is a must. And then last but not least, network. Leverage your network. You are not in this alone. Nobody wants to go through a journey alone. You go through it with others who can validate how you feel and tell you, guess what? No, you're not crazy, because you're in it together. And on that note, thank you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
I just want to say I've been on many panels, and this lady is moderating the hell out. I know. All right.
Bringing out lessons.
Thank you.